Can we get the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Bartis?
Here.
Commissioner Dolan?
Here.
Chair Kempner?
Here?
Commissioner Hamame?
Here.
Commissioner Pasalakwa?
Here.
And Commissioner Woods.
Here.
And approval of the agenda. Does anyone have a motion?
Can I add one thing to the agenda, if you don't mind?
Sure.
I got a letter a couple days ago of a particular applicant who wanted to bring to the Planning Commission a potential text amendment to add massage and skincare businesses as a permitted accessory use in the office district. So if the commission will be willing to discuss that as a discussion item, I would appreciate it.
Alrighty. Do you want to put that after BP?
Sure.
Motion to approve the agenda with the amendment.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda's approved. Approval of the minutes of January 24th. Anybody have any changes to them or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of January 24th, 2023 are approved. Now minutes of February 28th, 2023. Do I have to do all these separately?
Yeah.
Any changes or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of February 28th, 2023 are approved. And now the minutes of April 5th, 2023. Any changes or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes of April 5th are approved. Communications, do we have any communications?
The Michigan Planner is available for you. And then the only other communication was an email we received on the CIP, which I included in the packets, and that was it.
Thank you. Citizens' comments. This is the time for citizens' comments. I don't see anybody here. So moving on, we'll go to old business. This will be a public hearing. Kristen, do you want to fill us in on what we're looking at?
Sure. So you've seen this one several times now, the outdoor seating amendment. I would like to thank the Planning Commission for all the work they put in on this. I know we've been working at it for about 6 months, and it would just started as trying to make it a principal permitted use. But I do think that we're coming out with an ordinance that covers all the bases. I've had some communication with some of the businesses that are interested in outdoor seating this summer, and they've generally been really excited to have this move to a principal permitted use at a staff level, and have really expressed some nice words about how much work has been put into this ordinance. So thank you to the Planning Commission. It's before you tonight for a public hearing. I'm hoping that you are recommending approval to council, but if you have any questions or changes, we'll be happy to talk about those.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions before I open the public hearing? All right, I'm opening the public hearing at 7:05. And
Just to add a little excitement.
and seeing nobody here, we got no communications on this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm closing the public hearing at 7:05. All right, any comments, thoughts, motions?
It's really comprehensive, I guess. There were so many sections that were updated or amended, I guess. I read through it and I was trying to keep notes as I went along. Only one thing popped out because it seemed like I'd write a note down and then it would be like 2 pages later what I was looking for. But one that I didn't see that I was just curious about, if you know offhand, is about, are there any stipulations regarding like damage that these may cause, and like what, I guess, liability, if that's the right word?
Yeah, so in their section, well, on page 2, number 3, applicants are required to sign a hold harmless.
Okay, that's.
So that would cover some of that. They're also required to carry insurance, naming the city as an additional insured.
Okay. Yeah, I had a note right by the whole term. So that generally means like if they break a curb or something, like a concrete curb, you think they're
Yeah, it
bond or
covers us from
something
any,
for it?
we will not hold a bond for this.
Okay.
But it does cover the city for any losses like that. I do think that there is a provision towards the end that talks about the applicant's responsible for maintaining the outdoor service area, which includes surface treatment, cleaning, litter control, sweeping, snow and ice removal. And then it also references sidewalk and public property must be kept neat and clean at all times and free from anything that may cause injury or damage. So,
Okay.
and I did run this by our DPW director, and he was satisfied with the requirements that were in there.
Okay.
I just had a question about really logistics with the agenda. The agenda just lists this as a public hearing. Is that, you do want action? You want a motion to recommend approval? And I
Yes.
guess the question is, maybe we should add a line on the agenda, because it just reflects public hearing. It doesn't indicate that we're actually going to take action.
Yeah, that's a good, traditionally, this is how the city has done their agendas, but I think that that's a great suggestion to put potentially public hearing in consideration of or something like that. Yeah, I can do that on all future amendments.
That said, I'd make a motion to recommend approval of all of these ordinance amendments.
Support.
Kristen, do you need me to list them all in my motion?
No, it's okay if you, just, that's fine.
Any other comments? All right, Kristen, will you call roll?
I will. Commissioner Dolan?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamame?
Yes.
Commissioner Pasalakwa?
Yes.
Commissioner Woods?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartis?
Yes.
Chair Kempner?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, new business, capital improvement plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt Baumgarten, City Manager for the City of Berkeley. Coming before you today to present the capital improvements plan. Want to get away from just reading you guys a spreadsheet as I have in years past. So what I did is I took individual lines of the spreadsheet and put it up on a screen, so that's totally different. We're going to try to get through this quickly. I have time myself. I should have it under an hour, get you guys out of here. So annually, let me turn this on. Hey, all right. So for those that, for the millions watching at home, a capital improvements plan, something that we do every year, is a far-sighted planning tool. It does serve as serves as the city's multi-year planning instrument used to identify needs, financing sources for public infrastructure improvements. You see there's some backing there. Basically, the goal here is to make sure that we are looking ahead and pre-funding as much as possible and anticipating the needs called for in the city's various plans. You'll see up there on the slide, we're talking about the community's master plan, the DDA master plan, the recreation 5-year plan, the energy plan, and so on and so on and so on. Ultimately, the city has a collection of accumulated goals, our mission, our vision, all the above, and almost all of it requires resources to fully execute. So I don't know why that's not working here. Sorry, I'm gonna see if I can get the source correct here on this. Apologies, Mateo, for making you have to turn your head around to see it.
My neck's all jacked up in the morning. I'll give you a call.
Sure,
Can
thank you. Okay.
I angle this a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yep. There you go. Again, for those watching at home, the couple big bullet points here. There's a lot of things that goes into good governance. The things facilitated by this plan facilitate orderly planning for infrastructure improvements, maintain, preserve, protect the city's existing infrastructure systems, and then just provide for acquisition and scheduled replacement of equipment to ensure the effective delivery of services at the community's desire. There are actually 2 plans that the city does every year as part of the budgeting process. The other portion of this is the Capital Equipment Replacement Plan. We nickname it CERP. So you got the SIP, Capital Improvements Plan, and SERP, Capital Equipment Replacement Program. That is not a requirement to come before Planning Commission, so I did not double your time in dealing with this. But know that this isn't going to be everything the city plans to buy from a capital standpoint. When we replace vehicles, when we replace equipment, in many cases, hey, all right. In many cases, those are things that go on SERP and not the SIP. So I can explain some of the differences as we go through. Would love to be able to answer those questions for you. Last one, more than anything else, Capital Improvements Plan is a team effort. So big thank you goes out to our interim finance director, Lori Fielder, who has done yeoman's work this year. She does every year, but this year especially, in delivering this to you. But as you'll see, there are a couple of departments that really take the heaviest lifting here. I want to thank Teresa McCarlton, Matt Church, Alex Brown, Sean Young, whose name I realize I've spelled wrong, despite the fact I've known him for 10 years now. Chief Kane, as well as Mike McGinnis, and you'll see their various roles here. That may be their role on paper, but I guarantee you this is an above and beyond effort that brought this here to you today. So we do this as part of the annual budgeting process. So you see kind of our timeline here. We find ourselves obviously in the April-ish area, right at the end of April. So we've got this draft document. It doesn't become official until it's adopted by council in May. Charter says the third Monday in May is when council has to have their budget adopted. We are on course to deliver that with budget sessions coming up here in the next week or so, 2 weeks, and then on to May 15th. So if anyone is interested in attending the public hearing and approval, that happens at the regular meeting for May 15th of council. So, and then this will go into effect as of the 1st of July. And for those that are watching at home and don't understand it, fiscal years span the calendar years. So throughout this process, you'll see 23//24. That's because we'll start July of 23 and we'll end in June of 24. So that's why you'll see that hyphened area there. Funding the plan itself, in total, we've got a couple different funding sources that we use on the spreadsheet that we provide for you as well as the public. You'll see there are different sections there. There's a column for the account numbers. You'll note on the fund number, those will be the first 3 digits in the column that has that 12-digit code. Those first 3 numbers on each of those columns there denotes the fund that it comes from. So there's a narrative in the next column over, but know that your general fund, all of these funds have very specific fund numbers, and it makes it easy to find that in the budget if you want to cross-reference the capital improvements plan with the budget itself. Skipping down to the bottom a little bit after going through all these different funds, you'll see this year we have done I think our staff has done a fantastic job of utilizing this finite era that we're in where state and federal dollars are aplenty. So this year in particular, the city plans to utilize about $4.9 million in grants across the board, and you'll see it denoted in the capital improvements plan where several of these projects that we have in this document are also grant funded. Would not happen without them, and I'll note those as we go through because we're pretty proud of them. So in total, if you go by funds by year, the summary page here, you'll see this is what each of the departments are asking for in a year-by-year accounting. You'll see that bottom row in bold there is the annual total it would take to fully fund this plan. As we've been talking about now for over a year, but in a lot in the last several months, the city has struggled to be able to fully fund this plan year over year. We have been in a situation where we've deferred a lot of projects this year. We do believe we're able to fund this year based on the draft proposal that we've delivered to council, but every year after that is still a bit of a question mark depending on the city's level of resources. So you see, this is one way to look at it, just by year, but we don't want to wait until you get to 28, 29 to say, oh man, I hope we have $6.3 million. One of the ways to look at this is to take year 7 divided by we'll take all of these. The reason we plan 7 years out is to say, all right, we don't need, the way we're going to have $6.3 million in 2930 is to put away $922,000 every year. and then do that the same for each year and each year and each year and each year. So you'll see kind of how every year those numbers will scoot over. There'll be a new column on the end, but we need to be pre-funding these things so that when the time comes, we can do it. One of the ways that the city has managed to retire all of its existing debt is to take an approach like this in past years. We've improved parks, we've purchased fire trucks in the last couple of years by pre-funding these things as much as possible, growing a fund balance, and then when the time comes, you don't have to take on debt, you don't need any debt millages in order to actually make these purchases. So this is kind of the ideal funding strategy for a plan like this. It's one of the best tools that the CIP offers us when we try to anticipate future costs. And now going through department by department, we'll start first with our recreation department. A little narrative on all that it does, but in total over the course of the 7-year plan, recreation department anticipates about $2.3 million worth of projects. You'll notice there's a drop off in 27-28. 26-27 should be the last year we conclude our 5-year recreation fund, our 5-year recreation plan. The math doesn't quite work out, I can tell you that. We started it in 2020, and so we are going to take us 7 years to do a 5-year plan, but that largely reflects the level of funding the city has in hand. So going through it, I kind of reorganized the information a little bit. I know it's a bit all over the place in your documents, but you can see year by year what the plan is. Anything from infield maintenance work all the way down to parking lot construction, new walking trails. These are all planned updates to Oxford Park. Your document separates out Merchants Park and then the open field space in Oxford Park. The plan is to consolidate those into something that looks more like this, because we now treat this as one big park. It now has a comprehensive name after a couple years ago, and so this is finishing up the work that we started a couple years ago. Angel Park, we update this in partnership with the school district. School district does have some updates that they want to do, but the only thing that we anticipate over the course of the next 7 years is a refurbishment of the tennis court surfaces. Kiwanis Tot Lot, likewise, for anybody that has been there in the last 2 years, knows it's got a ton of brand new, really fun play equipment. The plan is to, after a couple of years, try to keep that refreshed. There's a second play structure that would be ending the useful life by the 26-27 year. And we can add some additional play equipment and for the price of about $150 by 26-27. Lazenby Field next to Rogers Elementary does have some planned updates as well. This is one that we haven't gotten to yet, but it is there are some projects called for in the recreation 5-year master plan as well. It is a baseball / softball / kickball field. It's one of the only ones we're able to utilize for adult events. So if those that are softball or kickball enthusiasts, this is likely where you play. All other ones get devoted mostly to youth sports. But we do want to try to keep it updated. New ball field surface material. It does have an issue with needing drainage, and so you'll see some engineering for there and Oxford, both of which have drainage projects anticipated in the next couple of years. New landscaping is needed around the park as well. Drainage is a big one. Anybody that's been out there, in fact, even probably today, it does hold water quite a bit. Stays very soft for longer than it really should to be a viable play surface. And then lights, poles for netting, and then the netting itself. JC, which is going to be a big focus of our attention this year. We were not able to do the ADA path. That was something we had to forego. The ADA path we were able to move into this budget year. Hopefully, we've got a vendor coming before council, so we're able to get a jump on that a little bit early, which we're happy about. But we do have pavilion. The bathrooms are going to be a standalone structure. It needs the structure itself, the bathrooms, and then it needs to be plumbed. We need to run a sanitary sewage line and then an electrical line into JC Park. That's, as council member and I were talking about today, $300,000 seems like a heavy price to pay for a bathroom. This is mostly grant funded, which we're very happy about. Also, it's getting the utilities to the middle of the park that's going to be our biggest challenge there. But we're going to do this in partnership with the state through a grant that the recreation department has been successful in getting.
You're gonna have it face the Royal Oak side?
That has not yet been decided.
Just right up against Webster.
Yeah, it's got to be better than having a big red porta-john out there.
Agreed.
Yeah, yep. And then likewise, with some drainage work as well. One of the things that we're exploring, you'll see later on, there's some green infrastructure funding available. We think this might be a great site for one of our initial bioswales, or even putting in some retention basins that would help mitigate some of the water issues we've got there. Community park, think of this as not just the play structure itself, but also the 3 ball fields, community 1, 2, and 3. Ball field surface material is going to be a continuous. You'll see anywhere we have baseball fields, we try to keep that surface playable. There's also tennis courts, repair, replace. We were able to do a resurfacing a couple years ago that bought us some extra time, but we are getting closer to having to completely redo those, and those repairs that need to happen there because the concrete underneath starts to become unstable over time as well. Turf for Community 1, that has been a long-term goal of ours. There's a couple of organizations as well, the Daz Club being one of them, that has made that one of their stated goals. There's been conversations with the school district as well. They would like to see turf for that as well. We're hoping that that is a tri-party project that is endeavored upon by 3 different entities when that time finally comes. A little bit similar to what we were able to do with COM 2 and COM 3 over the fall of last year, where we did new drainage, new fencing with those partners. Landscaping as well. There's continually need for new updates, landscaping around not only the play areas, but the ball fields. Sprinkler system repair. We anticipate the end of the useful life for that system to be coming up in 26, 27. And then soft surface for the play area. Anybody that's been to Oxford Park has probably seen that play surface underneath. It's a lot safer than wood chips. It's a lot easier for those with mobility challenges to get around as well. That's a play structure that's got some high areas, but it also it stands up a lot better. We've got a ton of different age ranges that play at that park, partially because of the proximity to Anderson, and partially just because those ball fields are so busy that there's either you've got a ball player in the family and you've got a sibling, but it really runs a very wide range of ages there. So want to be able to make sure it accommodates as many as possible. Our community center itself, parking lot patching is slated for next year. Those that, keep an eye when you attend Berkley Days this year, you'll see the condition of the parking lot there really needs to be updated. We host Berkley Days out of there. We host multiple touch-a-trucks. Again, it's a busy area it supports the sports fields that we have in those spaces. For all those reasons, we need to make sure we have slip-free or trip-free surfaces on that lot. So it's not going to be a full rehashing. That's $5,000 is an undershot for that. But this is going to be a strategic replacement of sections that are the worst of the worst. And then continually we've had repair of the southeast wall separation of $45,000. That's the community center itself. Because of the way it was built and the level of resources that was put into it when it was initially constructed, that area did not have the foundation it needs. It was never meant to last this long, but since it has, we're seeing the effects of having a poor foundation under that wall there. Pattongill Park, another one that we maintain in front of the school, in conjunction with the school district. Again, ball surface and fences, pretty standard items we'll see just in the upkeep of any of our sports fields. And then citywide, we have light poles themselves on all parks. This year, we're really happy. We're able to enter into a performance contract to swap out the incandescent lighting on the fields for LED lighting, but we're a couple years away. We're going to need to update those poles as well. Just as it worked out, we weren't able to do both at the same time, but thankfully neither one of these projects impact the other one. So by the end of the 25-26 fiscal year, we'll have new poles and new lighting in place. It'll be a load off any of our minds because the wooden poles that we have there just aren't slated to last forever, and so they're reaching the end of their useful life. And that's the end of our recreation portion. Any questions regarding recreation?
You said that the city cooperates with the school district on improvements made to those fields.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm assuming the school district puts in its fair share of what those parks required, or are they considered city parks?
They are city parks, yeah. So specifically community park, those are city parks. We host the varsity baseball and softball programs on those fields. So when asked, the school district has contributed. we're looking at this year as maybe just an annual fee for it, so that we can, again, start to create a fund for updates so we don't have to go to them every time we need something. Their contribution will already be in hand, and then we can just put it in action.
Is there a established percentage that the school district kicks in?
No. So we're in the midst right now of kind of developing that. We don't have like a fee schedule in place yet for this.
Why is Oxford Towers listed under recreation?
So Oxford Towers Park, it needs to be updated. I don't know if I hit that one or not. Oh, because we didn't have any projects. So Oxford Towers Park is the former name of Friends Park.
Okay,
The CIP just needs to be updated.
got it.
Yeah, we don't have any projected.
I'm anticipating that we're paying for tennis courts for the apartments.
No. Nope. Those are all city owned. We actually resurfaced those not too long ago. We were able to add pickleball courts to Friends Park, and they've been pretty popular so far.
So when the Parks and Rec plan drops off, eventually there'll be things there, right? As they go through another master
yeah.
plan and identify newer needs.
Very likely, yes. Yep. We anticipate coming back, restarting that plan development in probably the end of 2024 for the 24-25 fiscal year. Because we need an active 5-year recreation plan in order to apply for those grants, so we never really want to let it lapse.
And how many, I don't know if it's spelled out in here, but what was the total that was funded through the recreation passport from the state?
That's a good question. I don't have that information off the top of my head. I know the $300,000 is the current state grant that we have in the queue, but I'm not sure how much of that came specifically from the Rec Passport program.
As a hurrah, mine is old enough to be able to know when to go to the bathroom, but the idea of restrooms at parks is so lovely because I can't tell you how many times we got there.
Agreed.
And 2 minutes later, we had to turn around and go back home because all of a sudden she realized she had to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
So those are really exciting to me.
And it's bad on both ends because mine are old enough to know that trees exist, which is just as challenging in its own way.
For sure.
All right, moving on to the library. In total, the library is asking for $333 in over the course of this plan, and a little bit of notes on some of the great stuff that our library does for us. Again, trying to put these in order a little bit. Repair and seal coat of the parking lots is probably the largest near-term item. We've done some repair work here and there. But this is coming due, especially updating some of the drainage systems that we have there. Recarpeting the library that's the full library price. There's still a decent chance that we end up breaking that up over a couple of years, but we try to anticipate the worst case scenario with these plans, and so that is the cost of the whole of it. And then one thing that we're really excited about, Mr. Church, our library director, has been very patient in this as we've deferred this project a couple of times. But one of the things that we'd like to see added to the library is some personalized study spaces so that you can gather in small groups and have conversations with one another on collaborative projects. But right now, there just isn't a great space for that at all. We do have the rentable rooms, but if you got 4 people, it's too large, and there's a decent chance that those are already taken for some other group gathering. So these will be a nice opportunity for people to, little tiny collaborative centers within our library. It's another just a bit of evidence on how our library grows and changes, and has really done a great job of remaining responsive in an era where people don't think of the library as being as needed as it used to be. Ours has definitely defined that trend. Last but not least, we're going through a process right now. I actually just concluded a process where we were doing some limited exterior and interior painting updates. And we should anticipate another round of that coming due in about 4 to 5 years. Compared to the library, or compared to the recreation, it's pretty short here. So, any questions on library? All right. Next, municipal building. This is one of those things again where we'd like to maybe update the title. Municipal building is the heading that we've used for years, but as you'll see in this, there's a lot of citywide projects that end up really, for lack of any other place to land, they land under this particular one. So you'll see it's not all specifically City Hall and as we go through this, but it's about $2.8 million of improvements. And a good portion of that is actually paid for by state and federal sources. So starting specifically with the items that we want to do with City Hall, we do have a general number for some reconfiguration. We've made some moves to make our finance department more efficient. One of those moves is going to be moving from 3 staff members down to 2, with potentially some part-time support as well. That space that we have them in now is small for that amount of people, or is large for that amount of people. What we're having a conversation now is potentially moving our clerk's office over to where our finance currently sits, relocating finance elsewhere in the building, and then potentially moving my office and my staff to a more centralized place in the building as well. So what that would mean, so we have a money there that we're actually bringing over from the former court fund. So if you can think back to when the court was through those doors, actually, until 2015, there was ticket revenue that we got specific through the first 3 years or so that accumulated into a fund that was slated for building facility updates. We've been working on making some projects out of those funds, but we want to try to use the last of it now to really right-size our departments, put our clerk's office in the best strategic location to be able to implement Proposal 2, which was approved by voters last year. It does come along with early voting provisions, and want to make sure that they have the space to do that. Their current space does not lend itself as well to that. It's a good thing. Access to voting is absolutely utmost in a democracy, and we don't want the sort of restrictions of our building to stand in the way of fully implementing that. So that's where City Hall reconfiguration comes from. I'm very proud to say we have $1.7 million coming our way in the combination of state and federal grant funding. That is for citywide, all of our buildings, except for DPW, which was recently refurbished, and our community center, which has a different set of calculations. But we've got new HVAC systems coming, new boilers, updating the existing ductwork, and doing re-engineering some of those buildings for maximum comfort. All that's being funded under grant work. We would not be able to do this project elsewhere. Those that have been on this board for a while know that a HVAC project was perpetually in the next column over from this year, because it just kept getting pushed and kept getting pushed. This year we were able to actually get some stuff done, and not a moment too soon either. Our library and our public safety buildings both have had some really challenging winter this year. There were a couple of days where our public safety department worked in the cold while new boiler parts were found. And we've had some of this pretty similar issues with our library as well, somewhat tied to some of the power outages and the brownouts we've had this year too. So for all those reasons, we're really excited about what comes next. Electrical charging stations are still it's a direction that the city wants to go in. More and more, the impetus for building out this network seems to be landing at the local government level. Thankfully, there's some money seemingly coming from the state to maybe offset these. We have not landed anything yet, but even the governor announced today that she has a local government EV toolkit that she is launching that we plan to take full advantage of for these stations moving forward. We currently have 2 stations, 4 spaces at the library, and we are able to track the usage. So we're in kind of a data collection stage right now while we make a decision on charging, general hours of operation, when they should be made available to the public, and when they should be closed to the public. So a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes right now, but they're going to data-based decisions. We don't want to just take a shot in the dark here. Next up, the city is not this year, but next year plans to make an additional contribution to the Energy Revolving Loan Fund. We're really excited about this program. It was something that was called for in our 2019 energy plan. So essentially what we would do is take a project like what we recently did in City Hall, where we converted all of our lights to LED. That triggers a savings that we get from DTE. We take that savings amount and we put it not into just the regular general fund, we put it into an energy revolving loan fund. That fund builds, it funds additional energy efficiency projects, and those projects then have a contribution back to that fund as well. So it's a way that we can internally fund energy efficiency projects in a somewhat sustainable, somewhat predictable fashion. Last year, we had a contribution slated for $100,000 or $60,000. Not this year, but next year, we'll make an additional contribution of $20,000. And then for the foreseeable future, that should be fulfilling fund, which we're really excited about. And then wayfinding is another thing that was deferred. Wayfinding and the Cummings parking lot both have been deferred for now 2 years. Big ticket items for sure, but the city just does not have the resources currently to implement them. The wayfinding would like to build off of what the DDA was able to do in what we called phase 1, and take those into gateway signage, park signage, and a couple other places as well. Just generally trying to help people orient themselves around the community for visitors or new residents or whoever really needs them. That option would exist there. The Cummings parking lots, the city purchased a property on Cummings. That's why we call it the Cummings parking lot. But between Cummings and Thomas in the West 12 area, we'd like to try to put together a public-private partnership where we would take some privately held parking areas, combine them with city-owned parking areas, and then make one big lot out of them that would help the West 12 area sort of store people as they're visiting our businesses, but make sure that they're not parking up and down Thomas, up and down Cummings like they are now, as they visit any one of our very popular restaurants and retail locations in that area. We look at this as an economic development project because, as you know, as we're having this discussion now with public parking, if you are within a certain distance of municipally provided parking, you can make full use of your parcel. You don't have to start divvying up sections for your own parking, so you can full-on update some of these parcels that have not seen as much as we'd like to see, as maybe some of our other areas have in the past as well from a development standpoint.
I was curious when I was looking through the CIP, $800,000 for a parking lot?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we want to do with this. I do think it's going to be this amount, but one of the things that we want to add to it is a green infrastructure development project. The Cummings lot that we bought is a 60-foot lot. We only need the northernmost 20 feet of it, which means we have an opportunity to create like a really nice rain garden or stormwater retention area, not like a ditch, but like a really nice rain garden or something like that as a development project to show some of our other private developers in the area. It will come at an additional cost for anyone who tries to develop this, but we can demonstrate that it works. I'd love to see the whole section from Thomas to Cummings sheet drain to this area, and we deal with our stormwater that way through natural percolation instead of having it just all hit the ground at the same time. And that would be an alternate to even full, buckets or barrels in the ground detention if they could offset it through that. So we'd like to see that happen. But yeah, we don't know we haven't gotten into the engineering portion, the conditions under those privately held parking lots. There's a chance that they're not fit for modern standard, and we'd have to start from 8 to 12 inches under and build up that way. But some of the early drawings that we've had says we fit. It wouldn't be outlandish to say we can fit 45 spaces into that area. Mm-hmm.
Man, for the electric vehicle station installations, this is anticipation of installation on this property, correct?
So we're going to do a couple other. We don't have all sites determined yet. The closest we've gotten to this particular property is actually talking about Rosemont, the Rosemont parking lot.
And you said the current stations and these stations are, and I'm gonna use quotations because I might not be right here, free of use?
Currently, yeah. So we had an initial data collection period where we were going to start to make some decisions off of it. But I do anticipate us coming up with a strategy for trying to charge.
Yeah, I mean, I support it from the perspective of trending in that direction, right? Showing that, moving forward with the next wave of mobility and all that kind of fun stuff. But I would assume myself and probably other folks have the belief that at some point, individuals who have those vehicles need to pay for the electricity that they're charging them with.
Yeah. That's been the feedback.
And it
I've
might,
got.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could not tell you the numbers. You might be able to then show an offset to some of this, right? To say like it's $100,000 to install, but it generates $15,000 in revenue, so true cost is $85,000. I don't know.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know how to play that game. But
That's why it's so important for us to get network chargers, so that we had that data. We knew charge durations, parking durations, and the kilowatt hours that were being utilized at those stations.
sure.
Does the city hall reconfiguration, does that address any exterior improvements of the building?
So it's not on the plan now. I would love to get rid of the moldy banana look we have, that yellow and brown.
You read my mind, that's where I
Yes.
was going
Yeah,
next.
Yeah, yeah. So that wouldn't be able to be covered by the remaining funds that we have in the court fund. We'd have to find some other source for that. And it's not currently in our budget. I wish it would. We've got an entire section here that just goes unused. I'd love to see this building become more than just an area where you come and pay bills. It needs to offer something to the community, so interior and exterior work needs to be done. We just simply don't have the resources for it.
I mean, even just like a coat of paint or something, like on this side,
Mm-hmm.
it's, I don't want to say shameful, but it's been like that.
I'll
for-
call it that. If you won't, I'll call it that. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's an absolute, I mean, our biggest, we ask everyone to park over there, so as you look across, that's what you're looking at. That's
Right.
the view you have of your city hall is, moldy Teflon and some rotten wood.
Yeah.
Did the court lease this property from the city?
No, it was, it was basically an extension of the city itself. It was like, run like a department.
So the city paid for the court's operations?
What they couldn't fund on their own, yes. Yeah, I haven't delved too far in the books. I don't know how well it funded itself, if it did need general fund contributions, but,
I'm just curious if there's some sort of recourse to go back to the courts and say, like, you gotta clean this crap up.
no,
But
no,
if
no.
it's not there.
The building was never meant to last
Right,
as
it
long
wasn't
as it
even-
was.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a parking, for those that have not heard the story already, and I'll keep it less rant than I normally do. This was a parking area for public safety for the longest time. And what they essentially did was took the shell of the parking area, put a roof on, put some walls on, and, quickly, cheaply done, and said, hey, this'll do until we build you a proper space. And 40 years later, they consolidated with the Royal Oak Court. And so they never got the proper space. They never really improved the area that they were working out of. So now we are sit with, something we made last for a lot longer than it was ever supposed to be, but it absolutely looks like it lasted longer than it was ever supposed to be. I would like to see some recladding on the exterior. I was saying, just give me like a mural. We got murals everywhere. Let me put something out there.
Just
The
a fresh
coating
coat of
though is
paint, something,
Yeah, the coating is paint resistant, so we would have to peel the Teflon off to do it. Reskin it somehow. All good options. I just wish we had the resources for it, especially as we're coming up to our 100th year anniversary. We hope to have some nice events happening in and around City Hall over the course of this year as we celebrate our centennial. Our oldest section, the 1928 section, is getting a plaque from the state denoting it as a historical place. This is right at the center of our downtown, especially our DDA district. We should have a better presentation than we do. Again, just priorities are like we put every dime we have into trying to push services out to the people. We don't spend much of it on ourselves. We're like the shoemaker with terrible shoes.
Could you just straight demo it?
No, actually, we looked at that a couple years ago, and the HVAC system, electrical system, and the plumbing system are all too closely tied in. I mean, it could do something. The interior, the original structure is still sound. The walls need to be redone. The roof is actually in pretty good shape. So again, I would like to offer something. We struggle for space in the city. Public safety, second floor conference room. I think when we redid that a couple years ago, fresh coat of paint, some TVs, it became a real hub. If we even had something like that, another room of that size that could rival that or complement that, even that's offering more to the community than we do now. We need to bring something forward to the people. And again, I'd love to see that day come.
Sure. Thanks.
Do you have an idea of where you're looking to put those electric vehicle installations?
Not yet. So the only other area that we've discussed so far would be J.C. Park in conjunction with what the project we have there, and then generally speaking, somewhere along 12 Mile in our commercial area, but nothing past really that conversation. Okay. We do feel like it's appropriate to have one here eventually. It's just not been slated out yet.
I mean, I would love to personally see one on 12 Mile because I would like to encourage developers to do it, and I think it's great if we're showing that we put some skin in the game.
100%. Yep. Public Works, I'll give you a heads up now. Those that have seen this document already, you know that this is the largest section that we go through. So that's why they're $43 million, and everyone else kind of pales in comparison to that. This is spread out over a number of different funding areas. So as you see, they do street maintenance, they do sanitation, they do fleet maintenance, water and sewer. So they've got 4 to 5 accounts that they manage every year in the budget development process. Sean Young and Derek Schuler before him all had probably the biggest lift of any of our different departments. So I took what you have in there and I kind of broke it up a little bit into some, I think, general topic areas. Starting first with general topic areas. So this is things like our GIS. We continue to invest in GIS programming. This is largely an engineer's cost. Our city engineer facilitates this, updates this, but we've got more and more data going into here every year. All of our infrastructure locations, trees, buildings, anything down to like manhole level, but it does have a cost in maintenance that we partner with or that we pay for through engineering. Likewise, citywide road and water main improvements, planning and estimates. As you know, 2018, our voters approved a millage for infrastructure that continues to fund this work as we plan ahead, well into the future on what we need to be doing to keep our road system, static and ideally in places improved as much as possible. We do have a grant coming up, LED streetlight conversions through a carbon reduction grant that DTE funded. It's an 80-20 match, so that's our portion of this. By the end of this, we should have the remainder of our, like 570 streetlights or something like that, that still need to be converted to LED. This would get us there, thankfully. And again, that would yield savings that would then also go into our revolving loan fund too. Likewise, with what you saw above, water main road work, that's the work itself. There's a road section later and there's a water main section later, but since it combines those two, I put it in the general. As we know, we've got, hopefully you know, but for the millions watching at home, we kind of have an equation that we do as we decide these large projects. So Harvard, Kenmore, Wiltshire coming up, it's kind of like road surface times water main break frequency times sewer condition equals our next project, essentially. So we know we're funding this coming up. Wiltshire rose to the top on that equation there, and it's exciting for people like me because I find things like this exciting. Not only is it a sidewalk-to-sidewalk guts where we're updating the sewer system, it has already been lined, but updating the water system, the road surface, the road bed itself, sidewalks, that's from Mortensen to Woodward. We're also able to do what we couldn't do in Harvard because we didn't have the millage at the time, but take that next step and do a mill and overlay on Wiltshire, between Mortensen, all the way over to Coolidge. So if you ever want to know what it's like to be on the moon, go drive down Wiltshire now, because by this time next year, it will be smooth sailing all the way from Coolidge all the way to Woodward. And we're really excited about that. The mill and overlay section does not have the same issues with water main breaks. It's got a good sewer system. We've lined through there, so it didn't need a full gut, but we were able to do this instead because the road surface is really bad. So we're really excited about that. Sidewalk replacement program, this is an estimate. Again, we mostly we recap a lot of this stuff through special assessments, but there is some outlay that we have initially, and it ends up in here as well. The reason it doesn't extend beyond this year is, if you recall, we had a 5-year plan. Instead of doing this once every 15 years like we used to, and just doing the whole city, we did section by section by section over the course of 5 years. We're now ending that. We'll have a break, and then we'll come back and start it again in a couple of years as well, and we'll still go through that same section by section area. It has been a lot easier in managing from a staff perspective, and then we've set ourselves up now where this is much more, I'd say depend less on outside entities and third parties to administer this program, and we're able to better do it in-house.
So what's the policy on replacing a section of sidewalk that's been heaved up by tree growth or root growth? Is it simply, I don't know, I guess realigning the best you can, or do you have to take the tree out?
So we've got a couple of different options. There are situations where we do have to take the tree. We've run into situations where mostly silver maples are our biggest problem. Silver maples are at the end of their useful life. They've got a lifespan too. So it's not worth taking any extraordinary actions to try to save the tree. It's best to remove the tree, grind it out, and start fresh with a new tree that can restart. There are situations where we're not in that spot where the tree is worth saving, and we've talked to homeowners about doing a half moon to go out and around to give the tree a proper buffer. And there are some areas where whatever the type of tree is, if it's got the kind of space, we can just do a direct replacement too. So it usually falls into one of those three categories. Sidewalk replacement program that comes along with surveys and engineering as well. So we actually have once we go through and we do the audit, we walk the whole area. There's some engineering that needs to happen in order to help us make the determination the best way to solve this. From a tree standpoint, we actually have two different tree arborists take a look at it. Our initial walkthrough is with the city's forester, Hart. But because they are also the ones that are doing the tree removals, we do a second round of verifications with an independent arborist too, just to make sure that they're seeing the same thing that Hart's seeing too. We don't want anyone to think that the people cutting down the trees are the ones picking the trees. We don't want judge and executioner to be the same one.
Is the homeowner, do they need to kick in any of the money, or if there's a tree in the right of way and it's causing the sidewalk to come up a little bit, is that the city's paying for that sidewalk flag replacement, or
Yeah.
does the homeowner have to kick in some money too?
So it's both. So the city covers the engineering, covers the pre-planning, covers the coordinating work. The homeowner covers the cost of the construction itself.
But that's only through the program.
Right.
If you have to replace a sidewalk because a tree is damaging it, it's on the homeowner.
Right, yeah.
Can I ask you about that though?
Yeah.
The program is done? Because I thought you were doing a 3-year program that started 2 years ago.
So we were able to double up 2 sections in 2 different years.
So it's all done?
Yeah, so we're in section 5 this upcoming fiscal year. So we have made one swoop. And we were really going for those that needed immediate replacement. So the 2-inch gaps, 2-inch heaving, those are the ones we really targeted this year. And then we'll take a break. We give people multiple years to pay those special assessments. We'll recoup that fund in the sidewalk fund, and then we'll start to pick a date. But I think it's still probably off book from where we plan now. But I would anticipate 30-31. You'll see a restart of that cycle again.
I only know that because I had a sidewalk that was lifted so badly, and I was calling the city begging to let me get in sooner because I would be in the 3rd year, and I was told no, I had to wait. And anyway, I couldn't wait because I watched a little kid face plant on Halloween, and I replaced 4 slabs for $1,600, and I had to pay the permit fee.
Yeah. It's not cheap to do this work at any point, but our program does offer a better deal than I've heard anybody get so far on the private market.
And you got somebody out.
I had to bring a cement person out. I mean, I had to pull favors to get them out.
It was
but-
hard. We were looking at our sidewalk for
Yeah.
years, and I was spray painting it green to try and get people to not trip, and they were like, "Psh, you have 4 slabs. I don't have time for that."
I think what's most sad is everyone's like, you're crazy, just wait, you're not liable. I'm like, did you not just see that little kid face plant?
Have you guys ever looked into like grinding the edge of the sidewalk flags?
Yeah, we've done it in situations. We've done grindings. We've done essentially like asphalt wedges so the foot naturally rises with it. All temporary.
Yeah.
But yes, where we can, we try to do that. Especially from when we discover things through a code enforcement standpoint. The issue we hear back is what the chair said most frequently is, hey, I need to replace 2. I can't get someone to call me back on 2 slabs. So we work with people on a number of different things. Whatever you got to do to keep it from, because the issue is a trip hazard. Whatever you can do to mitigate the trip hazard, the better.
Yeah. Ours actually hold water. It's not a trip hazard, but we have a couple of flags that are lower than the adjacent neighbor's driveway, so it tends to pond there and then freeze.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things we hold dear, tree-lined streets and passable sidewalks. This is an area where those 2 loves butt up against each other.
With the LED conversions, If I recall, there were some spots along Coolidge, like when we had holiday lights, where there was an issue with the pole and the electricity for those. Are those being handled as these are swapped out, or is this just like a light bulb switching?
Yeah, and mostly light bulb switching. If we come across poles that are like not fully electrified, or there's some issue with them, we're turning them into DT's community lighting department, and they're doing as fast as they can. But we don't get real hard answers on that when that is.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had issues with the street lights being weirdly out whole blocks at a time. And so it feels like it's maybe just like a circuit or something like that. It would be a one-stop fix, and someone could be the hero of the day, and you fix one, you fix 10. But it still is just, they work as fast as they can, and they're sometimes not as fast as we'd certainly like them to be. Next up, let's see, some of our road projects as well. So kind of the next phase and what the Public Works Department does. You'll see this is an annual. We've got this portion of it slated out for a number of years. This work truly does never end. We've got 58 miles of street in the city, and to fully fund it would be a huge amount. So, and even then, once you get to the end, you just have to restart from the first part. A road's supposed to last 25 years. We have not and never been on track here at the state level or the federal level to truly invest what it needs to invest to keep our roads up to date. But you'll see this is our best attempt. This is throwing everything we have at this problem year over year for the entirety of the foreseeable future. So this is not just, this is the PACER rating itself. PACER is an acronym that I can never remember what it stands for, but essentially it assigns a 1 through 10 numerical rating to your street. And then those numbers break into your basic, fair, good, and best. The road millage project, again, voters thankfully voted in 2018 for 2 mills. It's rolled back slightly, but it still raises about $1 to $1.1 million for us annually. So we're able to add that to some of our state road funding as well. You'll see the commitment we make over the next several years. Citywide road patches. So we've taken, anyone that has seen sort of the large sections that we've sought out and replaced, not just, little pothole filling, that's more the next one. But this is whole sections that we've removed and replaced. We're going to keep on doing that. We've been focused mostly on concrete sections of the road infrastructure so far. Starting this year, or starting up this upcoming fiscal year, want to transition to start addressing some of our asphalt sections too. So those patches may not require full removal and replacement. We might be able to do some mill and overlay as well. But I will tell you, in a lot of sections, we've got multi-layers. We've got like concrete base with asphalt on top. And so there's a lot of engineering that goes into trying to figure out what the best way to move forward with those are.
How many miles did you say?
58.
And then is the PACER ratings, is that done in-house?
No, we actually use HRC to do that for us. Our HRC is our city engineer. Also another acronym. Yeah, we swim in acronyms.
Pavement service, evaluation, and rating.
Gold star. Yes.
I've done it personally many times.
Okay, all right, we may call you if you want to make $12,000 here. And then spray patch, crack sealing, overbanding, mastic, that is our small scale stuff. That is filling a pothole. That is reflective cracking in the road surface on some of our newer ones. We can go in. The goal in all of this is to keep water out. Water is the biggest enemy of any road. That freeze-thaw cycle in Michigan is really brutal to concrete and asphalt both. All right, next we move on to sidewalk projects. I talked a little bit about them previously, but again, we talked about sidewalk projects might have accidentally ended up in here twice. But the estimate surveys, and then we want to do some spot mill and fill asphalt improvements along Catalpa as well. One thing that's not on here because we're doing it in this fiscal year, I'm just really proud of it. I wish Mark Richardson was here to hear this. We are finally doing the pedestrian pathway up Coolidge from 12 Mile up to Webster. We got bids back. We think we have a preferred vendor to bring before council. But if anyone can picture the experience of walking from 12 to Webster on the cemetery side, you're walking on a really degraded asphalt surface, very bumpy, full of its own set of trip hazards. And during the summer, during the growth period, you're walking way too close to a bunch of bushes and trees and a fence line. So the plan is to scrap the asphalt completely, move the walkway surface out, expand it, and then have it be concrete running all the way up and down that area there. So that would be able to better accommodate any foot traffic that maybe wants to, go to the Woodward Corners, just visit friends, or any number, whatever you want to do, just we'll have a much better surface for you to do it on. Very excited about that. That's something that we've been calling for I think a decade plus at this point, and we're able to finally pull it off.
East side only?
Yes, yep. So it's a straight shot, no, nice thing is no driveways, no anything like that. It's just a straight, nice walk.
And it'll tie into the Royal Oak border.
Yeah,
the
so
sidewalk that is there.
we've been having conversations with Royal Oak about this for a couple of years. They've verbally committed to doing some improvements on their side and taking it the rest of the way. Yep. That's actually funded through the Act 51 state dollars. Act 51 it's a state, it's basically where your gas millage goes, your gas tax. They have a requirement of spending 10% at any given 10-year span on non-motorized pathways. So we're able to utilize those dollars. This is not a general fund. This is not a Berkley taxpayer funded project. This actually comes from state dollars that we all pay at the pump anyway. Now, for DPW facilities, you'll see this one looks a little bit more like we've seen in other categories, just general maintenance, things that need to get done in and around our DPW facility. We had a really big win in the last 2 years as we were able to redo the interiors, but there are still things like, garage loft railing, perimeter walls, salt dome, concrete slab replacements, our overhead doors, roof repairs, just the kind of normal things that come along with once you have a new, nice building that you built out of an old building, you want to keep it as nice as possible. And a credit to Alex Brown, our facilities manager, first facilities manager we've had in the city's history, came on in November 21, and he has really taken on a lot of these projects and project planning. He's done a fantastic job with them, so I want to give him credit here because this largely now falls into his lap, along with a good portion of this. A good portion of all of our buildings now fall into his lap. We had previously asked all of our department directors to not only be experts in their own field, but also be general contractors and facility managers. We shifted that to our facilities manager, and I do think we're getting a higher quality of output than we ever used to. Last section here, our water and sewer. Again, you'll see this is fully fleshed out as well because the work here truly never ends. One of the things that off the top, lead service lines, you'll see there's two different sections here that relate to lead service lines. The city is now obligated, as every other Michigan municipality is, to address the issue of lead service lines in your city. We have yet to receive any money of this from the state. They made all the rules, but have come forth with none of the money. So we have been funding this out of pocket through our working capital, but replacing these lines, complying with the state standards and mandates, and going through and making sure that we can update our GIS program to know exactly where lead service lines are, and whenever possible, replace them with copper or PEX or whatever the homeowner prefers, mostly copper. But the point, and one thing that changed as well with the state's rules is we previously only owned the public area was from the main to the stop box, which is that little kind of plate, about a foot or so past your sidewalk. The state changed that. Now your service line is public all the way up to your water meter inside your home. Huge change from previous decades and decades of the city's history, but cities that weren't Berkeley sued on this, thinking it was a violation of the Michigan Constitution, was not ruled in their favor. So this is now law of the land. We have an easement that goes from water main all the way inside the home at the meter. So we will do the entire replacement for people. Sewer lining, we're actually upping we've upped this in the past, and we continue to be able to do so in the future now as the costs go up. The sewer lining program, we do about 1 mile a year. And so we're up above, we're somewhere between 35 and 37% of the system lined. This puts a plastic pipe in the middle of the old pipe so we don't have to tear stuff up. We don't have to, dig up anyone's, front yard or anything like that. We can actually run it right through there, and it lasts 3 times as long as the ductile iron or the clay crock or whatever we used to have in there. But it's now a solid piece of plastic. It's a lot easier to clean. Doesn't catch material. It's a much better solution than we had before. We just need to continue to make our way through. We've been working at this for 20 years, and we're at 37% or so of the city. So it's definitely a work in progress. But no, we're not going to stop funding it anytime soon. We're well ahead of our most Michigan cities, and we want to stay that way. Water asset management plan. This is truly just making sure that we're keeping a good eye on our assets, making sure that we know exactly what's aging in the ground and what that means for water service reliability. Concrete repairs, we break it, we'll fix it. Water main cross connection services, that's to make sure your potable and your non-potable water never crosses. We do annual inspections all across the commercial and residential zones. This is what I referenced earlier, some green infrastructure implementation. The goal here, the reason I put this in water and sewer, is the goal here is to divert as much stormwater as possible outside of our system, and that's what the goal of green infrastructure is. So you would put it into areas where it would percolate into the ground. It would be soaked up by plants, whatever it is, whatever keeps it out of our combined sewer system, the better. And then last but not least, this year specifically, the water main replacement program, engineering as well. So we tend to try to marry these with our water and sewer or our road projects like Wiltshire. So you don't see anything this year in 23-24 because it's been combined with the Wiltshire project. But we will still maintain about a $2 to $2.5 million investment in that moving forward each year. Anything on public works? I know it's the largest section, but we've climbed the mountain at this point. We've gone over the biggest portion.
By percentage of total funding, I guess I'm not gonna do the math in my head, but this is what, gotta be 35%?
I do have a slide for that later.
Okay.
I have a pie chart even.
Is there historical data showing that infrastructure has typically carried that percentage of a municipality's capital improvement budget?
I've not seen sort of baseline to compare to.
I'm just curious. I have a feeling infrastructure is outpacing everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it for sure.
Probably in these old cities.
Yeah,
With
I mean,
the trees.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just curiosity.
Yeah, certainly, our version of this is different. I always use South Lyon as a comparison. South Lyon didn't exist until like 10 years ago. So they don't have the infrastructure issues that we have, but us being, pre-World War II, but mostly, benefiting from the housing boom thereafter, we spend a lot more on 70-year-old infrastructure than they have to.
That's all right. We'll be laughing at them in 50 years.
Right.
Hey now,
Yeah.
I represent them.
You gotta replace all your stuff in 50 years. You better start saving.
Right. And hopefully they're benefiting from some of the lessons learned that we're, because as I say, we live in the age of consequences. So this is all the things that should have gotten done or didn't get done. They had to land on somebody, and surprise, we're them.
Just curious.
Yep.
With the lead, oop,
Do traffic signals end up in here for any contribution?
So we pay road commission to maintain those. So in our budget, you'll see SCADA updates, SCADA, I think it is. That is the money that we contribute to road commission to update those, but we don't replace those or time those or anything like that on our own. So it's not a bad deal.
Okay. Do you know if they're planning to do any signals within the city?
I have not
Within their
heard that.
program?
I have my annual meeting with road commission coming up in May. They might have some more information for me then, but nothing that they've told us yet.
Okay. Okay. And so they include in their capital program even city-owned intersections?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then is the bike lane or any improvements on that within Public Works too? Paint or?
Yeah, there's no resources dedicated to it now.
Okay.
One of the things that was the recommendation of the task force was that should we ever get the opportunity to redo Coolidge, to relocate that to like more of the pedestrian, combine it with the pedestrian spaces.
Mhm.
But we don't have the resources to move forward on that anytime soon.
And then do we do anything with alleys? Are those?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the, if it's city owned, then that is our responsibility to maintain, and we plow them and have to do more of the crack sealing and, the smaller scope stuff.
Okay. Are they just considered streets then?
No.
on the-
No,
No.
we do look at them separately,
Okay.
because Act 51 doesn't fund them,
Mhm.
and so they do fully fall to the city to maintain and update. Some of the areas, when we worked with Clinton Huron Metro Watershed Authority, I messed that up, but it's the Clinton Watershed Authority. Part of what they were recommending on our green infrastructure implementation was to take some alleyways, in addition to the parking lot that we want to do, take some of our alleyways and use those for green infrastructure updates as well. So I think we'll look at
Yeah.
those long-term, but again, it's a resource issue for us now.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I was asking, because
Yeah.
I remember on the master plan, green alleys was like a
Yeah.
a thing. So,
Yeah.
and I walk along the Woodward one quite a bit, but sometimes to cut through, but
Right.
that might not.
Yeah.
It's pretty in bad shape, but.
And our ones on like 12 Mile,
Yeah,
some of
the
those
12
need
mile,
some work
yeah,
as well too.
Okay.
Yeah, Coolidge doesn't have as consistent of a network, but we do have some city-owned alleyways back there too.
Okay.
Right.
With the lead line, you guys, the city doesn't know exactly which houses have them and which houses don't.
Right. Yeah. So we've been relying on people taking advantage of our program. We'll come out if you think you've even have an iota of a suspicion that you might have a lead line. Contact DPW. We have a gentleman who is kind of our lead lines are. He'll come out. He'll walk through. He'll verify for you, and we'll set you up with the city's third-party vendor, D'Angelo Brothers, who is completely vetted. It's used by the county, used by several others, and at no cost to you, we'll replace the entirety of the line.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a plan at some point, like, so there's gonna be some people who don't take advantage of that. I'm sure there's some lines
Yeah.
that you guys know of. Is there some like cross-referencing where at some point, 4 years from now, you go, okay, these are the addresses, we still have no clue what they have.
Yeah.
We need to, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that point. That's part of what the lead line verifications are. So even if you'll see, we have a hydro excavator on the end of our sewer truck where with jets of water and essentially a giant vacuum, we'll dig a tiny little hole on both sides of your stop box and we'll be able to verify what the amount is or what the material is. And then that's how we're adding it. That's how we're putting it to ArcGIS. Right now, we're still getting enough voluntary participation, but we're very likely gonna have to switch at some point and say, hey, we verified that you have lead. We need to put you on this list to get this redone.
How do people know? You said if they have an iota of.
Yeah, so the best way to look at it, if you can locate your meter in your basement and visit our website for actual pictures, but it's coming out of the floor and into the meter, there's gonna be a bulb. It's a grayish, like dark matted gray coloring. That is called a lead pack. That's not found on copper. So if you have that bulb coming out of your floor and into your meter, there's a good chance that material, that's a lead service line. And contact DPW and we'll verify it, but that's the best visual indicator. Okay, all right, moving on to the trucks we just heard earlier. Public Safety Department, as you'll see, they are front-loaded on theirs as well, mostly because a lot of what they do falls into the capital equipment replacement program that I mentioned earlier. So they're a little bit more robust on the SERP side than the SIP side of this. But to their credit, though, they answered over 12,000 service calls in 2022. They're a very busy department for 2.6 square miles. So this is just single page. You'll see refurbish the elevator. Anybody that's had the pleasure of taking a ride up our elevator knows it's it's better than coffee if you need to wake up in the morning with a kind of an abrupt stop at the end. It is reaching the end of its useful life. These repairs are not inexpensive, as of course nothing is, but we are able to fully fund this in this upcoming fiscal year. Two projects that have been deferred a number of times now. Our basement updates, our own officers took it upon themselves to do some of the fitness room renovations, but there's still plenty that needs to be done in the basement there. We've been able to bring that number down over the years because of the work that our guys have stepped up and done, but there is still outstanding amount of $50,000. and then renovate the male and female locker rooms as well. So we've got, both need a lot of work. Both need some little bit more modern touches than what they have. So we've deferred that a number of times, but we'd like to eventually be able to actually execute this project here. And then one of the other things that we've talked about in the past, we're trying to keep our cars longer than we ever used to, mostly because of fiscal reasons. It would be nice to have a carport, as we used to have, for those vehicles to keep them out of the weather. Whether it's a responsiveness, it's hard to, if you have to go quickly, it's not easy to run out and scrape your windshield and then go to a call. But it's also not good to be sitting in the baking sun all day either for a lot of the mechanical works. So just for all good reasons, we'd like to be able to cover those vehicles. Again, that is a third column project that is continually sat in the third column every time this has come before you in the last 3 years. And that's it. That's all the public safety. Any questions? Okay, all right. Last but not least, our Downtown Development Authority. Again, descriptor on the Development Authority. But they are front-loaded as well. They are in the midst, or they are working on executing their downtown master plan. It does call for some capital projects to be done. They'll need a refresh of their wayfinding signage in the next couple of years. But largely what it calls for is updates to streetscapes, bike rack benches, crosswalk enhancements, Robina public space planning. There's a number of things that they'd like to be able to do. Because of the way that the DDA is funded, they've got a millage that's internal to the parcels within their footprint. They also have a TIF capture, which again is specific to the parcels inside their district. The TIF dollars especially need to be returned back to that district. So in addition to capturing some local funds, as we looked at last year, it captures about $209,000 worth of funds that would otherwise be leaving the city to go to county or regional or state entities, that we get to turn those right back into projects like this now. But again, their main drive for this particular section here is to make physical improvements to the built infrastructure there, whether it's open spaces or whether it's just little elements like you've seen new benches in the last couple of years, you've seen new trash cans going on through there. So more than just events, it's actually swinging a hammer as well. Okay, all right. Some summary slides now. So this is what I was talking to you earlier. You see the green section here is the municipal building. That's mostly, again, for this particular year, this upcoming year, that's driven by mostly grants, but the purple Pac-Man is public works. And long-term, you see it transitions. It's once you get past just that initial year of funding, you'll see he really closes his jaws on everything else, and of course, to the 7-year plan. It's absolutely the biggest thing we do.
Yeah, and it's tough because it's something people don't always recognize
or
see. It's underground. It's above their head.
Yeah. It's absolutely one of those things where if we do it really, 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 really well, no one thinks about it once.
Yeah.
All right, and then the numbers behind it, you'll see this builds on the slide you saw earlier. It gives some department totals at the end. We kind of went through, but marries that bottom part too. So in total, we were asking for, over the course of the next 7 years, nearly $50 million in improvements in the city. That's a good place to stop.
How does it break out per funding source? Like if you add up all the stuff and for the general fund, say, does that equal 100% of what the city has? And I know there's grant money and stuff that kind of skews things off a little bit.
It does,
but
yeah.
Basically, if you add up everything in that column, that's a general fund. Is that 100% of what we have available in the general fund?
For this upcoming fiscal year, yes. The rest of it does have an aspirational element to it.
Okay.
And should the Headley override pass, would some of these projects be able to move up this year that are on the list?
Yes. Yeah. So we do have a set of recommendations that were in the budget that we put out last Friday that would bring some of these back into this upcoming fiscal year instead of deferring it.
Flip side, if Headley doesn't, or if it gets voted down, this just more kicking of the can for some of this stuff?
Yeah, the flip side is it's more the same of what we've been doing is strategically moving things back when we need to. And then we try not to, we talked about this in the past, we try not to cut projects that we know will be good for the community. But perpetual deferments are really probably where we land.
What does this plan anticipate?
This plan anticipates existing revenues. It makes no assumptions on the voters' prerogative.
Good move.
Yeah.
And if it fails at the special election, I mean, it can always get put on a future election.
Yeah, and I've said this in my presentations as well. There's no floor to Headley, and so as long as the city continues to prosper, you'll see those millage rates roll backwards, backwards, and backwards. There's nothing that technically stops it from going to zero. We don't want to go over that fiscal cliff, so at some point we'll have to ask the question again. Yes, that's council's decision though, and so it'll be up to again administration to bring a case forward to them and then to the people as a whole.
So this is based on funds we have, but also, maybe not in the most, like, there's probably gonna be more deferments if it were
Right.
not to
Right.
pass,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yeah, so this reflects present day dollars of all the needs. The timeline is what likely shifts. I thought I was kidding when I said an hour. My apologies.
I did think you were kidding.
I did too.
Don't ask him about Headley.
We
We'll
were
be here for
asking
another hour.
questions though, so that wasn't fair.
I'm long-winded. I'll own it. I get excited for this stuff. I'm an absolute nerd for what I do.
So are you looking for a motion to recommend approval?
Yes, please.
I think it's to approve, right? Not recommend.
Yeah, you're right, Mike, correct. It does require dual approvals between the planning commission and the city council. So your motion, your request is to approve this document, and the council will do the same.
So moved.
Second.
Call the vote.
Yeah. Commissioner Hamame,
Yes.
Commissioner Pasalakwa,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Bartis,
Yes.
Commissioner Dolan,
Yes.
and Chair Kempner.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Nice job on the
Good job, man.
presentation.
All right, yeah, it's better than reading off a spreadsheet.
It's better than
It was
reading.
really hard to read off that spreadsheet.
And like 42 million for parking lot
I
lights.
was
You're
like,
trying to
I
follow
seriously
the
wrote
line.
2 things down.
Like,
I
that
wrote,
doesn't seem right.
I wrote light poles at parks, 300,000, and Cummings parking lot, 800,000. I'm like, what the heck?
All right, moving on. Site plan extension, Berkley BP.
So if those that were on the planning commission about a year ago will remember that we approved a site plan extension, or a site plan, I'm sorry, for the BP at the corner of Coolidge and Catalpa. They had some plans for a canopy addition, as well as some facade additions and some site work as well. They have asked for an extension. They were not able to do the work in the 1 year allotted time frame. So you have the opportunity, if you so wish, to extend the site plan for 1 additional year. He has indicated he intends to come in soon with building permits, but this would extend that for 1 more year.
Any reason cited as to why the deadline was missed?
Yeah,
And
he
again,
had a-
that's, some of this before my time, so.
Yeah, he had a couple reasons cited in his email having to do with like some personal illness things, COVID-related things. There were several items listed. It seems reasonable from a staff perspective to extend it.
And it does need a facelift, so. And nothing is changing from what we approved.
Nope, nothing is changing. Same plan.
Questions, comments, motions?
Move to extend the deadline for site plan approval, Berkeley BP.
Second.
I'll just pick one.
Just pick one, yes.
Shall I call the roll?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Bartis,
Yes.
Commissioner Dolan,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamame,
Yes.
Commissioner Pasalakwa,
Yes.
Chair Kempner.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And then moving on, our discussion item, skincare and something in office.
Would you like to do that before the election of vice chair?
I think that's where I wrote it
Okay, that's
down
fine. So I don't have any packet information for you because this just got turned into me yesterday. But there's a potential business that wants to come in at 2790 Coolidge, which is the business center that's right across the street from us here on Rosemont next to the car repair facility. So they do chiropractic work. They also have some mental health services. And as part of that, she also employs a massage therapist. And I wrote skincare because I don't know how to say there we go. I don't know how to say that correctly, but esthetician. Thank you, Lisa. And right now, the office district permits medical offices, which includes chiropractic and mental health services. And it lists allied uses, but the staff really felt that since personal services and massage are called out in other districts specifically, that it wouldn't be appropriate to allow that to be in place in the office district because it's not expressly permitted. So she's proposing a text amendment. Staff would recommend that Planning Commission look at it as an accessory use to a principal permitted use. And she'd like to come forward for a public hearing in May. Again, I got this yesterday. I haven't had any time to put any language together, but I did want to at least bring it up for you all to consider if that's something that you would consider as an accessory use in the office districts. And it would be massage therapy and esthetician.
So that's that little strip mall to the south of the car repair place?
So the car repair place right here on the corner of Rosemont, and then there's like the brown building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've gone to a masseuse
Me
in
too.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, you probably have. That is since closed. And I'm not sure how that was permitted to go in there.
So technically, massage is not, it's a special permit right now
So
in the office
massage right
district?
now is called out in other districts specifically. It lists personal service establishments such as, and it lists salon and massage is one of the things that it also lists as a personal service establishment. The office district reads professional medical offices such as, and then it goes into chiropractic, doctors, mental health services, and it does include a provision that says and other allied professions. We tossed this around at a staff level and just felt like since massage was specifically called out in other districts as a personal service, that we needed to look at it as a personal service too. So we weren't comfortable lumping it in with the other allied professions and recommended that they consider proposing a text amendment, which we would feel comfortable supporting, but just to kind of cross our T's and dot our I's and retain some consistency across the ordinance and with how it's implemented by staff, that we should really make sure this is specifically identified if we're going to sign off on it as a permitted use.
I would like to see the other ramifications of calling it a personal service establishment, because my experience is massage is always treated differently and it has separate regulations. And if we lump it in with an esthetician or even a makeup artist, I think we're going to be maybe, at least I'd want to see what kind of implications would fall from that.
And we can definitely look at that. I think one of the things we're going to have to look at, and we're getting a little bit into the weeds, but I want to bring this up because that's a good point, as we get into the zoning ordinance update, is we're seeing all of these medical spas, for lack of a better word, where they do all of those types of uses. And we haven't come across it proposed here in a district that doesn't allow both personal service businesses and medical office businesses. But I think that that's something we're going to have to look at in the zoning ordinance and kind of figure out where does that fit and what do we call it and how do you define it?
And in this case, why couldn't they, they have multiple uses in the building, but the zoning district doesn't allow the personal service establishments currently?
Right. It calls out medical office, and the business that they're proposing, which would be one of several businesses in the building, would be mostly mental health therapy uses, and they also have chiropractic services as well. It's kind of a, for lack of a better word, a wellness center, similar to maybe what's being proposed in the former Cocoa Fairfields. It's going to be something similar, a medical spa type use in the former Tootie and Tallulah's. But we didn't come across this question because both of those areas permit medical office and personal service So,
So maybe that's something we should look at instead of, just, I know we're just getting into the weeds, but instead of changing the classification to maybe allow personal service establishments in the zoning district.
in the office district, if that's what the commission's interested in looking at, we could. I didn't want to spend a lot of time getting into this because we do have this business owner that I want to give an answer to. You either can or you can't do the massage part of your business, and the esthetician part. So I don't want to spend the amount of time we've gone through on outdoor seating, getting into this, because I think it's going to be a much larger discussion that we have to have. And right now, we're just kind of Band-Aiding the ordinance, for the lack of a better word, since we're finally getting into all of those discussions that have been set aside for years. So, yeah, we can look at just adding personal service to the office district, if that's something the commission would like to entertain. I guess,
Are you working with the planning consultant when you keep saying she wants to propose text amendments?
no, she is the business owner. The business owner has proposed a text amendment. The potential business.
And that's normal? A property owner will propose zoning ordinance language?
So we do have an ability where residents and businesses can propose a text amendment or to add a use to a district.
Oh,
It's a free-for-all.
I mean, we don't have to.
They're just asking,
don't have
right?
to do
I
it. They
mean, why
can ask.
not?
I've never seen that before, though, where a
I guess I
resident
would-
prepares a text amendment for our consideration, but.
So you need an approval on allowing for the text amendment, or?
No, I
Accessory
just am
use,
looking for
right?
your feedback on whether you'd even entertain the idea. I don't want to go through the charge to the applicant and the work of advertising a public hearing and preparing drafts and things if this is something the commission's not willing to consider.
My personal opinion is I appreciate them asking, but I want to fully understand the consequences of doing that before I would agree to it.
What's the text amendment again, though? That you, like, where and what is it?
So, as a Band-Aid,
Yeah, what's the
my suggestion would just be to allow massage and esthetician services as an accessory use to a medical office. That would be the suggested Band-Aid, and Band-Aid is what it is, because it needs to be explored much farther.
So is there an acceptance on their end that if this Band-Aid is applied, it could be ripped off and not replaced?
But they'd already
Not
have
if
it.
they've
They'd be
already.
No, if they're
invested
in, they're in.
Have a lawful use, then we change our ordinance to make it unlawful.
So they are allowed to operate, but almost kind of, I mean, I might not be using the right terminology, but as a non-conforming use.
Yeah.
And so they close their doors and it's not coming back, but they will be able to exist in doing that business. For as
If we
long as-
change things. I mean, I don't think it's very likely that that particular site is going to end up zoned office. Just based on our downtown master plan, I think there'll be some consolidation of zoning districts, and I don't think it's going to be an office district.
And the difference is it's an accessory use versus calling it allied to medical services?
They could, as an alternative, if the commission didn't want to explore this right now, go to the zoning board of appeals and ask for an interpretation.
Okay.
And the zoning board of appeals could decide that their massage and esthetician services are an allied profession of a medical office.
Based on exactly what they're proposing, number of massage therapists, I mean.
Yes,
it
they
would
could
be
do that.
Specific to that particular location.
Yes. So that would be their other option.
So what would be the downfall of allowing personal?
I wouldn't
Wait,
say
no,
that,
we're
I
not
would
going
not
there
recommend
yet.
allowing
Yeah.
all personal service,
No.
because then you get into hair salons and everything, and that doesn't seem like it fits in an office district.
I have no issue with it being, so we're calling massage and skincare
Yeah,
an accessory use to the medical zoning district, or
To the office.
The office.
the medical office. And if
Medical
that's something that the commission is not comfortable with, and maybe would recommend that the applicant pursue the interpretation through the ZBA, I mean, that's the other option that I can offer them. Or the commission could say, we just really don't think that this fits here. And the ZBA could say, we don't think that this is an interpretation that we can apply, And then the business can choose to move in with just the therapy and chiropractic uses that are currently permitted.
With the understanding that we're reviewing our zoning ordinance.
And that they could potentially add that in the future. So those are their three options. I just wanted to be able to give them some guidance.
So I tend to lean with Lisa's thought that, like, I don't feel like I can give a great answer without digging into it a lot more.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm in the same boat.
Okay.
I like setting precedent with Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I think I will recommend that they pursue the ZBA option, and then we'll investigate this as part of the zoning ordinance overhaul.
Yes. You're saying, though, that this is a new business that wants to come into the city,
Correct.
and that's their business plan.
That's their business plan, yes.
And there's no other spots that are, or maybe that's just available and,
I mean, I hate to be the reason a new business doesn't come into the city. But I also hate to do the Band-Aids that create legal nonconforming uses in the future if ultimately we decide it's not appropriate in the medical office district. The alternative is if they want to invest the time and money into exploring it and letting us really dig deep and understand the ramifications of allowing a massage, essentially a massage parlor and medical office. And in the consequences of that, I don't think any of us are wholeheartedly opposed to it. We're just not comfortable today making any sort of decision. So maybe having
Well,
them
I'm
go the
okay with that.
ZBA route,
I'm okay with it, so.
maybe having them go the ZBA route, and if it goes down, come back to us with more information about the
I
consequences.
just know it might take a
Yeah, you-
meeting or two for us to, like,
Well,
work
and
through it.
And it'll turn into outdoor seating.
The bulk of their business is not the massage and esthetician. The bulk of their business, 80%, is permitted uses. So they could move forward with those permitted uses if they were comfortable doing that.
Right, it's not prohibiting them from coming in and setting up shop, it's just you can't do that 20% right now.
Right.
Okay,
So it's up to them.
yeah.
so the other 80% is medical?
Yeah, it's chiropractic, it's
Wellness, okay.
therapy, yeah.
I gotcha. But they came yesterday and.
They
asked-
they were submitting their business license and were denied because of the massage use. And then they submitted a letter yesterday proposing a text amendment that it be added as a use.
Yeah.
So when someone applies to the ZBA, do you prepare a report?
Yes.
So your report would indicate that administration was not comfortable making that interpretation,
Yes.
and the ZBA then would have to trump you in order to approve this.
Yeah.
So not likely to get approved.
I haven't taken any use cases to the ZBA yet. I don't have a good feeling of whether or not, but
I know it shouldn't affect my decision, I'm just curious how.
I feel like sometimes the ZBA is just kind of like, I think it's gonna go one way, because I'm a government nerd and I watch it all the time. And then sometimes I'm like, wait, what? That's not what I expected out of you guys, huh?
yeah. So I'm not sure which way they would go.
Are there any cons if they go to the ZBA and the ZBA says, okay, that falls under that umbrella? As far as when we go forward with the process of rewriting the zoning ordinance?
No, I don't think so, because I think this is like a newer thing that when the zoning ordinance was written 30
Years
years ago, this didn't exist. And now we have this use or group of uses that combine some sort of like medical aspects and really has some spa aspects too. So what does it really fall into? And we really are going to have to look at it and
So
figure
from
it
the
out.
ZBA though, ZBA can attach whatever conditions they want. The approval can be based on the number of people giving massages, as opposed to allowing massage parlors in the medical office, which is a free-for-all. There's no ability to regulate or constrain the use.
Yeah, the ZBA, right, could say one room, blah.
One massage
Yes.
therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the appropriate avenue, is take it before the ZBA.
Okay. Thanks for adding that on.
One
Yeah.
last thought, sorry. Why couldn't, could you, if we were in some point in the future to go forward with it, why couldn't it be like a special land use where those types of regulations can be put in place?
Oh, it could. I know a lot of communities have a list of regulations that go along with massage businesses. We really don't. So they're out there. Yeah. They're out there right now
Without any regulations.
without, yeah.
So there's not a massage ordinance in the city of Berkeley.
Not as far as I know, no.
Okay.
They don't have to register or need a special license or any of the things.
Okay.
It's a very entrepreneurial city.
I mean, I can double check, but as far as I know, in the city code, there's nothing that requires a massage business license. And there's, in the zoning ordinance for sure, there's no additional regulations attached to massage businesses. Okay, so I'll add it to the list of things that we need to talk about.
This gets longer and
All right,
longer.
moving on, election of a vice chair. Who wants to be the vice chair? Anyone? I don't miss a whole lot of meeting. Yeah, well,
I know, there's like this part of me that's like, yeah, sure.
Please don't.
Yeah.
I don't miss many meetings, so you probably won't have to lead very often. I think I missed
I don't know if you've missed any.
I think I missed one. And that was still virtual, and it's just because I had a bad connection on vacation.
The secretary. I think I already have a position, don't I? Aren't I the
I think you are
secretary
the
or something?
secretary, yeah.
Yeah, see,
Uh-oh.
I'm already
Uh-oh.
spoken for.
Straws are being drawn.
Maybe you just need a promotion.
No, I'm good.
That's true. You move up the ladder.
Well, I think since Matt Mensch was thinking about it, I think he should be vice chair.
Ooh. Me? Well, I might not be around much longer. That's another conversation.
Juniority, it'd be Joe.
Right, I know, I knew you guys were gonna say that.
You want to be vice chair?
I can, yeah.
All right.
I have no other duties, so.
I think somebody has to nominate him, right? We have to go through all this.
Motion to nominate Joseph Bardis as vice chair.
This is mine.
Support.
Can we do an all in favor?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yay, welcome vice chair.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm not going anywhere either, so.
Yeah, there you go.
I like this spot.
Liaison reports.
The environmental group did not have a meeting last week, so I have nothing to report from them.
You want to do
The
DDA?
DDA, yeah, what's the last meeting? It's always so packed. I mean, just general updates on the crosswalk work now that's gonna be taking place on Coolidge in the process for putting the bid package together and getting it out. That's a huge project undertaking that's been, long time coming. Finalization of some of the budget numbers for different line items and projects the DDA can be doing, and, Mike, per usual, kind of outlaid the next year's, event calendar and things of that nature.
Can I add on to it?
Yeah, go for it.
There was talk about opening up those crosswalks soon, and the need for a marketing plan for education so that you can kind of put it out to the city. This is how you cross as a pedestrian. This is how you use it as a driver. So I remember back when they first opened, there was a lot of arguing on Facebook about how we were supposed to navigate it. So hopefully the marketing plan will help explain to everybody how they should use those crosswalks. And the mural program, there was a conversation about making sure that the murals were up for at least 5 years or somehow being able to recoup the money from some of those businesses. Of course, the Berkley, that beautiful Berkley mural is
Oh,
the
it's
thing
got
that kind of
windows in it.
spurred that conversation on. And then as my own little side, their Ladies' Night Out, or Leia's Night Out, will be May 4th. And on Saturday, May 13th, in conjunction with Berkeley Days, they're going to be doing another chase, much like the ghost chase that happened in October. It's kind of part scavenger hunt, part road rally, part amazing race. There's space for 24 teams of 4 to kind of run around the Berkley businesses, solve clues, do activities. Everyone will be ending at the beer tent, so there's enough room for everybody. And there's food there. It's going to be super fun. October is super fun. All the people at home sign up. All right. Anybody else? Liaisons?
Is there a
Or
pub crawl gonna be happening? Did DDA do that?
I think the pub crawl was the chamber.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it was. I remember that now.
And any commissioner comments? Staff comments?
Yep, I have a few things. The zoning ordinance, so we've started the rewrite. The first meeting of the steering committee is May 3rd. Everyone should have gotten a copy of the audit. Let me know if you have any comments. I'm not necessarily expecting any, but if you do, please get them to me by May 1st. Previously, there was discussion at the commission, I think in January, about excused absences and why we go through that process. So the city manager is going to bring that up during the summer work sessions with council. That was a council initiative. So they will bring that up for discussion. A social district was approved by the city council on 12 Mile. It runs from about Kipling to Tyler. I'm working on getting the paperwork filed with the MLCC right now. So I'm not sure what the timeline is going to be with them, but hopefully in the coming months that's open and operating.
How's that gonna work? I'm just curious.
Just in general.
Yeah.
So it would run along 12 Mile Road and incorporate the municipal lots that are behind the buildings between about Clark's to about the neighbor's shop.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that wants to participate, I think there's 5 potential businesses that could participate in the area. They file an additional application with the MLCC to add that onto their current liquor license.
Mm-hmm.
The city would provide cups, because you have to have special cups in the district. So we would provide cups to any of the participating businesses, and then you could get your drinks to go and drink them in any of the common space, which would be the right-of-way, the sidewalks, the municipal lots.
Okay. Yeah.
Why is the city providing cups?
So the cups are not that big of an expense, and it's just easier because you have to have it with the social district logo on them. So if it becomes really successful, which I hope it does, potentially we would look at charging businesses for the cups, but we would still be the people that are procuring them initially. We would just pass the cost on to businesses if it ends up being a big expense. Right now, the DDA is absorbing that cost as part of their promotional materials. So you have to have the cup with the logo of the social district and then the sticker from the business.
Well, it has to be a specific color too, doesn't it?
It doesn't have to be a specific color. It has to be a specific size. I think it's 16 ounces.
And you're not supposed to take the same cup into different establishments.
Right.
It's really tricky, and that's why I'm wondering, because that's a lot of cups, like, and then we're actually providing them for the businesses to use.
We are, and a lot of cities are doing that. Oak Park has their water tower social district. They provide the cups. Ferndale, I think, passes the cost on to the businesses. Really, it's one of those two things. But
I'm actually drafting one for South Lyon right now, which is
Oh,
why I'm
okay.
questioning that.
yeah, in conversations with Oak Park, it has not been a big expense for them. The cups are about 15 cents a cup. So if it becomes a big expense, then we would look at passing the cost on. I mean, that's a really easy change. We don't have to do a whole lot of hoops to jump through if we want to start passing the cost on to businesses. But it's just kind of a
And so in
get off
order,
the ground thing.
so the way I understood it is the cup is the name of the establishment that you bought it from. And that, when you go into another establishment, that's the indication that you've been to another location. You're saying those are gonna be stickers instead?
So in talking with other communities, because the cup has to have the logo of the social district, so we have a social district logo, and that will be printed on the cup. Businesses would be given a roll of stickers with their individual business name on. So when they sell their cup, they put the sticker on the cup, and then you're not supposed to buy something if they are participants at El Patio and then walk into Amici's, with your margarita.
So then does the sticker replace it, or they get another cup when they go buy a
You'd
margarita?
have to get another cup. I
They
think.
have to
I don't
get
think
another
it's, like,
cup.
sanitary to
Yeah, they'd have to get another cup.
do that.
So
Wow.
the idea is that you would walk around. You shouldn't be walking necessarily into take your drink here, go into here. It's more that you would be congregating in the common areas.
Do you know, like in those districts, can you go into commercial establishments with alcohol?
So you can if the commercial establishment wants to let you do that. So I think it's in Royal Oak. They let establishments post signs on their businesses. We do not want, don't bring your social district cup in here, something more friendly than that. But, don't bring, you can't come in here. Some communities, in my looking at maintenance and operations plans, have just expressly prohibited that. We were going to leave it up to the business. That's how we've written our maintenance and operations plan. And I've sent it to the MLCC, and they've come back with some comments. They have not commented on that. It's more just changes to the map.
To me, that's like the true benefit of the social district is non-liquor or booze-based businesses allowing folks to come in. Yeah, you had a few in you, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna buy that.
Especially if you can like text, so you get in line and they're like, it's a 45-minute wait, you get your drink, you wander around,
Yeah.
beep, 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 you, and you're like, all
I
right.
mean, I totally get it's up to the businesses. It'd just be nice to see if it actually works for them to see extended business hours and things of that nature to try to capture on
Yes.
traffic. But teach their own. I mean, it's up to them.
We're gonna put recycling bins out there for all the cups that are
We're
gonna
going to
get
put,
tossed?
yeah.
And there's like limits on the side streets. So if you live right there, like it'll
Right,
say like,
so we have to
don't
put-
take alcohol past this point,
Yes,
right?
we have to put
Yeah.
signage out,
You don't want
yes.
people walking around.
Yeah.
I think it combines well with like public space parks like at Robina and stuff, right? 'Cause if you're
Yeah,
out there,
Robina
then
seems like a natural hub. It's got the extra
there's
space to
something to
sit.
do outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
When is that?
When is the social district?
Yeah, or is it just
So I have the paperwork into the MLCC. We were hoping to get it kicked off early summer.
so it's like a weekend every day or
No,
every
it's
weekend?
All time.
It's all the time?
every day. We have a 10 p.m. end time right now.
Okay.
We can choose the end time. Most communities either did 10 or midnight, so we're suggesting 10 right now
If you wanted to do it later, is it a huge issue to do that? Or
to change it.
Yeah, or do you just like go, hey, by the way, we changed it to midnight?
Yeah, there's a maintenance and operations plan that's required, and that's where you're stating the time. So, I mean, I haven't gotten too much into this because we haven't changed anything yet, but I would assume you would change your maintenance and operations plan, take it back to council for that change, and then submit that change to the MLCC. Everything has to be approved by council first.
Gotcha.
As far as site plans, though, it doesn't impact anything for us, right? Because it's essentially then like a separate little thing someone can decide to do if they own a business that serves alcohol.
Right, you have to have a certain type of liquor license. Not every liquor license can do it. I just was, as an FYI,
Yeah, no. That's, I was just curious if there was ripple effect.
there's nothing site plan related. no.
You've been waiting so patiently too. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I have one more thing, Greg.
I'm listening to Matt all over again.
I met with a potential business owner that's looking to move into the former Smith's Counseling Center. So that's across from Almonds. It's that tiny little building. It needs a facelift right now, the corner of Franklin and Coolidge. It used to be a counseling center. The person I met with today wants to do a law office, which is first floor office is a special land use in the downtown district. So that will likely be coming before you for special land use and some facade updates. So if anyone has any questions on that ahead of time.
Is that in the social district?
No.
No. I'm done now.
All right, so council updates. We have an election next Tuesday, May 2nd. For the polls will open at 7 a.m. to the 8 p.m. That's the Headley override amendment language. It can be found on the city website as well as the calculator. Budget work sessions. You guys got a preview tonight from Matt are on May 8th and 9th at 6 p.m. and across the street in our public safety building, both nights. From at 6 p.m. going, I think they cut us off at 10, but if we go over, we do have the third night as well. The vape shop ordinance that came from you guys first was successfully passed at council and went into an effect. And we held our kickoff session with Carlisle and Wortman for our ordinance rewrite, which you guys were part of. So there's your updates.
You.
Not an hour long.
You should have been first
All right,
on the
I don't know who to look at anymore. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Joe's gonna have to take that over too.